Houston, we've had a problem here. Say again, please.
Hey folks, welcome to Beyond Our Future, where we discuss space, rockets, exploration missions, and everything in between. In today's video, we'll reveal the harsh reality behind the Apollo 13 failure. So, let's begin. The Apollo 13 mission was NASA's third moon landing mission, but the astronauts were never able to reach the lunar surface. Almost 56 hours into the mission, an oxygen tank explosion forced the crew to abandon all hopes of reaching the moon. Although the spacecraft was damaged, the crew was able to seek cramped shelter in the lunar module for the return trip to Earth before returning to the command module for an uncomfortable splashdown. The mission is remembered today as an example of the dangers of space travel and of NASA's creative mind collaborating to save lives on the fly. On April 11, 2020, the Apollo 13 mission celebrated its 50th anniversary. Commander James Lovell, Lunar Module pilot Fred Haise, and Command Module pilot John Jack Swigert were the Apollo 13 astronauts. When he joined the Apollo 13 mission at the age of 42, Lovell was the world's most traveled astronaut, having completed 3 missions and 572 hours in space. Haise's only trip to space was on Apollo 13. After the original Command Module pilot, Ken Mattingly, contracted German measles, John Swigert was asked to join the Apollo 13 crew 48 hours before launch. On April 11, 1970, Apollo 13 was launched. The Apollo spacecraft was composed of 2 separate spacecraft connected by a tunnel, the Orbiter Odyssey and the Lander Aquarius. On the way to the moon, the crew lived in Odyssey. On the evening of April 13th, when the crew was nearly 322,000 kilometers from Earth and approaching the moon, mission controller Cy Liebergott noticed a low-pressure warning signal on Odyssey's hydrogen tank. The signal could have indicated a problem or that the hydrogen simply needed to be resettled by heating and fanning the gas inside the tank. The procedure was known as a cryo-stir, and it was designed to prevent the super-cold gas from settling into layers. Swigert began the routine procedure by flipping the switch. The entire spacecraft shook a split second later. As oxygen pressure dropped and the power went out, alarm lights illuminated in Odyssey and Mission Control. Swigert famously announced to Mission Control, "Houston, we've had a problem."
Please? Houston, we have a problem. We have a main bus B undervolt.
A NASA accident investigation board later determined that wires were exposed in the oxygen tank due to a combination of manufacturing and testing errors prior to the flight. A spark from an exposed wire in the oxygen tank caused a fire that ripped apart one oxygen tank and damaged another inside the spacecraft that fateful night. Sensing the venting oxygen, the spacecraft's altitude control thrusters attempted to stabilize the spacecraft by firing small jets. The system failed because the explosion slammed several of the jets shut. Fortunately for Apollo 13, the damaged Odyssey had a healthy backup, Aquarius, which wasn't supposed to be activated until the crew was nearing the moon's surface. Haise and Lovell worked feverishly to get Aquarius up and running in less time than planned. Aquarius lacked a heat shield to survive the drop back to Earth. So while Lovell and Haise set up the lunar module, Swigert remained in the Odyssey to shut down its systems to conserve power for splashdown. The crew had to balance the challenge of returning home with the challenge of keeping Aquarius powered up. The crew turned off every non-essential system in the spacecraft after performing a critical burn to point the spacecraft back towards Earth. Without a heat source, cabin temperatures quickly dropped close to freezing. Some food became inedible. The crew also rationed water to ensure that Aquarius, which was operating for longer than expected, had enough liquid to cool its hardware. And Aquarius was a little tight because it was only meant to hold 2 people, not 3. On Earth, Flight Director Gene Kranz took his controller shift out of regular rotation to focus on managing consumables, such as water and power. Other mission control teams assisted the crew with their daily tasks. Manufacturers of spacecraft worked around the clock to assist NASA and the crew. It was a bumpy ride home. Haise developed a kidney infection, and the entire spaceflight crew lost weight. However, the small vessel shielded and transported the crew long enough to reach Earth's atmosphere. The exhausted crew scrambled back over to the Odyssey and powered it up in the hours before splashdown. The craft had been soaking in cold water for days and could have shorted out. but thanks to safeguards put in place following the Apollo 1 disaster, there were no problems. On April 17th, Lavelle, Hayes, and Swaggart safely landed in the Pacific Ocean near Samoa. So, this was it for today, guys. We hope you enjoyed our content. Like and share the video if you did. Subscribe to Beyond Our Future for many more amazing videos. Stay tuned, as we'll be back soon with another informative video for your amusement. Till then, keep exploring.